Welcome back to Unaware Commentary, the place for Pokemon TCG battle narration that doesn't care about the stats.
Welcome back, players, to another exciting Pokemon TCG battle narration. We are catching up with our players here who are already set up with those Pokemon in the active position. Our player 1 on the left with the Mega Charizard X-Max, our player 2 on the right with the Pseudo Legendaries Matt. Our player 1 starting with a Froakie in the active position has started the game by drawing a card and putting a Meowth EX onto the bench, and is going to go into the deck and find a Lily's Determination to the hand. Not going to be able to be played on this first turn, but going to be a valuable resource to help it get set up and see a fresh hand of cards. Our player 2 starting a Litwick in the active position. Just trying to see if we're going to attach an energy here. We will see an energy attachment to the active Froakie. Fixable energies, moving Ultra Ball in the hand if we want to finish setting up. Maybe get rid of some of those resources that may not be immediately helpful, like those extra water energy. Possible that we're seeing a Terra Ninja coming to the hand here. This could be a Greninja EX deck or a Mega Greninja EX deck. Actually, a combination of the two is the trend that we have seen. Let's see what of these major frogs that can make a difference in the board state will be making their way onto the battlefield. You see some cards that'll help our player 2 set up. We see the draw for the turn. A Tatsugiri to the hand that'll find its way to the bench, and the playing of a Buddy Buddy Poffin going into the deck to search for 2 basic Pokemon with 70 HP or less. No mulligans this game, both of our players with their 6 prizes there, so our player 2 here looking through his deck, likely trying to figure out what may be there, what may not be there. Looks like we did find another Litwick on its way onto the bench and a Snorunt onto the bench. We're seeing some Chandelure in the deck, so this does look like a unique deck here, a Mega Froslass EX, or maybe there's a Mega Froslass EX in the deck, and a Chandelure deck. Chandelure, a Pokemon that is able to force the opponent to draw cards with its Alluring Light ability, and it does damage equal to the cards in hand with its Mind Ruler attack, in combination with Mega Froslass EX, who has this attack of Resentful Refrain, who does 50 damage for each index. We did see the rare candy played by our player 2 who has drawn after the pass of our player 2. No energy attachment on that turn. The attachment of the Air Balloon to the active Greninja EX that came into play after that rare candy, and the playing of that Lily's Determination that we saw coming to the hand on the previous turn, shuffling up and drawing 8 cards as we are still in the early game, so we haven't yet taken any prize cards that would reduce that Lily's Determination down to 6. 8 fresh resources into the hand here. Trying to figure out if we have any ways to get some additional Pokemon into play. We do find a Froakie off the Lily's Determination. You see a Dragapult in the hand, so it's likely a Dragapult variant of this Greninja deck. Dragapult, a phenomenal draw engine with its Recon Directive, able to see 2 additional cards turn. We do just see the attack of that Greninja EX, doing 170 damage to the active Pokemon and allowing for the searching up of a card to the hand. It does not need to be revealed to the opponent, as it is not a limited search ability. So you are able to go into the hand with that Shinobi Blade attack, again doing 170 damage and putting a card into the hand. Did not quite see what card our player may have been eyeing up here, possibly a way to just continue to spread that bench. Could be an Ignition Energy if we want to try to Barrage next turn and take out some additional Pokemon there on the bench, and then the taking of that prize card as it was a knockout taken. We see a draw from our player 2, the playing of a Pokepad to search up a Pokemon into the hand, a non-rule box Pokemon. It is going to be that Chandelure making its way to the hand. It's going to be important that our players are keeping track of their hand sizes, as both a Chandelure and a Mega Froslass are reliant upon the opponent's hand size for damage. It's interesting as hand disruption is sparse in the current format, or it was before the occurrence of special red card coming into the format. It'll be interesting to see how much hand disruption comes out from our player 2, or if it's just going to be hand encouragement as we see a rare candy into that Chandelure onto that Litwick on the bench, and the playing of a Lily's Determination, shuffling the hand in going to look at 8 fresh cards. Interestingly enough, the promotion of Tatsugiri likely because that Lily Determination was already in the hand and available to our players, so no need to find any additional supporters and not need to risk having to find an air balloon to potentially get out of the active. Possible we're trying to find an Ultra Ball here to try to get a Mega Froslass into play. Looks like there is 7 cards or 8 cards in our player 1's hand before the Alluring Light being activated, so 50 per each would be a total of 400 damage, which would be more than the 310 on that Greninja EX in the opposing active position. Produces the benching of a second Snow Run onto the bench, just a Psyduck, maybe a second Chandelure. We see the Alluring Light ability activated, both players drawing a card and adding it to their hand. A Fire Energy being found for our player 2. Our player 1 just setting that card down, making sure that we have a good count available to our player 2. Very sportsmanlike to make sure that there is an awareness of the cards without the additional asking of the question. Hand size is one of those known information factors that are communicated back and forth between our 2 players. We just see the attachment of a Fire Energy to that bench Chandelure and a pass back over to our player 1 with that Greninja EX in the active, ready to take some more knockouts. Looks like we do have a Buddy Buddy Poppin in the hand. We are going to start expanding that bench out with the searching up of 2 Dreepies onto the bench, both of those with 70 HP or less. So very searchable off that Buddy Buddy Poppin in their basic forms, and hoping to become Dragapult in the future. And we did see a Neo Upper Energy previously in the hand, so possible we even see a Dragapult come into play. You see that Neo Upper Energy peeking out of the hand. You see a Rocket Watchtower, luckily not going to be applicable in this matchup, as it looks like Chandelure is the relied upon draw engine. You see a Hilda, maybe even a Dawn to go get some additional Pokemon. If we are concerned about a knockout, maybe preemptively grabbing something like a Pheasantipity, grabbing a Dracloak for the following turn, and a Mega Greninja for that Froakie on the bench, or a regular Greninja to put a second Greninja EX into play. We'll just see the playing of that Watchtower. We could also see the attachment of that Neo Upper Energy for the utilization of Mirage Barrage. It would eliminate the likelihood that we would see a Dragapult this game. You see the playing of a card that's causing for the switching of a Pokemon. Let's see what we grab. Likely a Hilda, as it is an evolution Pokemon, and a energy finding their way to the hand. There is that Ignition Energy, so we would not need to play that Neo Upper Energy. No Neo Upper Energy, or no Ignition Energy in the prizes. We can see the attachment of that Ignition Energy to the active Greninja EX, but first we're going to go back into the deck here with an Ultra Ball, discarding 2 more Water Energies. 2 more Water Energy finding their way to the discard pile, really flying through those resources here. Luckily we have a good amount of energies in the hand and energies onto the battlefield with both of the active Greninja EX and that newly found Frogadier on the bench having a Water Energy attached to them. Determining what we want to do as far as attacking here, we do see the attachment of the Ignition Energy and a Mirage Barrage going to knock out both of those. The Snow Runs dealing 120 damage to both of those Pokemon, and the taking of 2 prize cards, taking our player 1 down to just 3 prizes. After taking that initial knockout and 2 more, you see our player 2 drawing and playing a Lana's Aid supporter card. Gonna grab those 3 basic Pokemon that have found their way into the discard pile, into the hand, then back onto the bench. No need to grab any energy, as the only energy we have found thus far in this game for our player 2 is attached to that active Chandelure. We will see the playing of a Alluring Light and the drawing of a card for both players to see a Wally's Compassion come into that player 2's hand, additional cards coming into that player 1's hand, being that we took 2 additional prizes and have drawn. We're not able to fully empty that initial opening hand if possible. We are seeing a decent amount of damage here, likely not enough where 30 per are going to knock out that Greninja EX, as the 30 as a multiplier is decent, but not going to be enough that it will take knockouts on Pokemon like Greninja. Just determining what our damage here may be, confirming available prize cards, and checking for the number of Pokemon that were knocked out on the previous turn. Looking at what our options here may be. Haven't seen a supporter yet. Potentially we could see the playing of the Lily's Determination to find another Pokemon, but we did see the attachment of a Fire Energy onto that bench lit with, so it is possible. It is not going to be possible to see an attack with a Mega Froslass of this turn. Just going to be that attack off of the Chandelure. Off of the Chandelure here, that Mind Ruler doing 34 cards in hand. It is doing 240 damage. So against a lot of Pokemon and a lot of basic EXs, that would have been enough. But that stage 2 Greninja EX is just too big, too much HP available there. You see the draw from our player 1, 2 Dracloak, finding their way onto those bench Treepy, and a third Treepy finding its way onto the bench. Looks like we are going into the deck. We're going to be finding a Mega Greninja EX to the hand, and possibly a, it's going to be a Dawn. So we are looking for a stage 2, a stage 1, and a basic Pokemon. It's going to be a Froakie, another Dracloak that will not find its way on the battlefield of this turn, and a Mega Greninja EX finding its way into the hand, potentially going to find its way onto that Frogadier there on the bench. There it is. We do see that evolution on the bench into a Mega Greninja EX with 1 energy attached. We're not quite ready to attack, but it's possible that we will see the playing of that Neo Upper Energy this turn. As discussed, it will power up necessary Mirage Barrage. We did see that first Recon Directive with a Buddy Buddy pop in. A second Recon Directive looks like taking a Frogadier, so not going to be immediately relevant cards. We do see a Water Energy in the hand, so that is actually going to find its way onto that bench Greninja. We do not see the need to Mirage Barrage this turn, as it would not take a knockout on the Chandelure. It could clear off those Snow Run, but would just put more cards in play. Must have been an Air Balloon that found its way onto that Mega Greninja, because we do see the attachment of a Neo Upper Energy taking a knockout on those Snow Runs, as discussed with that Mirage Barrage, discarding 2 energy from the Greninja EX. It will just be that Neo Upper Energy being discarded, as it does fulfill the requirements of that attack, similar to the way that the Ignition Energy, supplying 3 energy to Evolution Pokemon, it did fulfill that previous cost. We do see a draw from our player 2. There's a Pokepad. We're just going to see a rare candy into that Chandelure. No Lampents needed this game, just a couple of rare candies to get those Chandelure into play. Going to have 2 Alluring Light abilities available to our player to force some draws here. For both players, we will see the activation of 2 Alluring Lights, the drawing of a Boss's Orders, and a Dawn, it looks like, and then the drawing of 2 Water Energy for our player 2. Water Energy not helpful now, as we do not have Snow Runs available to be able to make it into a Mega Froslass. Interesting combination of cards that tend to work together, but they do have to be able to maintain their way onto the bench. We have seen an increase in bench damage in the recent meta with things like Slowking finding popularity, as well as this Mirage Barrage Greninja EX, which has really found its stride with the printing of Mega Greninja EX. Great that Greninja is okay with hanging out with its own Mega Evolution, and it's fighting its Terra type, able to diversify the types of Pokemon available in the deck, as well as mixing 2 Prizers with 3 Prizers, and just being able to do a diverse amount of damage depending on the draw engine. It can be a unique archetype. You do see the Dracloak here. It also has a unique number of A-Specs available to it. We did see the A-Spec of a Legacy Energy out of our player 2 deck before the playing of the Lily's Determination, still drawing up to 8 cards. You're going to see the playing of a Crushing Hammer, a Disruption Piece. It has found a popularity in the current format. That is a Tails. Big bummer. That would have been nice to be able to get an energy off of one of these Pokemon here. We are going to see the bumping of a Stadium with the playing of Battle Cage. Battle Cage going to prevent the placement of damage counters onto bench Pokemon with abilities, but not going to prevent something like that Mirage Barrage. So there is a way to see another Mirage Barrage to take out something on the bench, potentially to try to get around this Legacy Energy in the active position. That is a possibility. We do see the playing of a Night Stretcher, just determining what we want to grab here. It is just going to be that Snow Run, potentially trying to look for an energy that may have been in there, but all of the energies have continued to maintain their place on the board with those 2 Fire Energies on the Chandelure and the Legacy Energy that was played this turn. We're going to see the playing of an Energy Surge just to thin out of the deck, because we know that there are some Water Energies available in the hand, just not able to be played at the moment. Coming into the deck here, grabbing that Water Energy, determining what our best course of action here is going to be to try to take prizes. It is just going to be that Mind Ruler. Going to take a knockout on that active Greninja EX. 2 prizes to our player 2. Hand size was large due to the taking of prizes. We do see the promotion of a Greninja EX, just going to take a knockout. No prize taken because of that legacy energy. Quick attack there, no need for any additional cards to be played. We did not see the energy find its way to the hand. We do see a lot of cards in the hand. We did see the evolution of a Mega Froslass onto the bench. The playing of a Lily's Determination by our player 2, gonna shuffle the hand into the deck and draw up to 6 cards, as we have now taken a knockout. Mega Greninja EX using that Ninja Spinner ability did do 120 plus, or 120 times 2 due to weakness, doing 240 damage to that active Chandelure on the previous turn, but not putting an energy back into hand. No need to do that additional damage. We do see the Mega Greninja lined up here in front of that Mega Froslass, counting the number of cards in hand as we're going to do 30 each. Our player 1, realizing we've got a boss's orders in that hand, probably could have worked around that legacy energy and taken a win. Do we have a way out here? Do we have a way to get into Dragapults? We don't have the Neo Upper Energy anymore. We're only playing Water Energy, so we don't have a way to attack the Dragapult anymore. We did have our player 2 take 3 prizes with that powerful Mega Froslass attack due to the big hand of our player 1. Does our player 1 have it out here? I'm not seeing it in the hand. They're potentially discussing here that there was the boss's orders available in the hand, but was not able to utilize it to take that big knockout. Mega Froslass gonna stand tall here with that resentful refrain available. That big hand gonna be able to potentially take out something like any of the Dracloaks, being that we have taken 5 prizes already by our player 2. Everything is a potential knockout here. Is there a way to thin down the hand enough? But even with the Chandelure on the bench, you can force him to draw cards. There's lots of playables here. It's just going to be tough to get out of it. We can go into the Dragapult potentially. We're trying to thin down the hand, potentially retreat into Dragapult. That's going to leave us with no energy. Does look like an energy may have found its way onto that benched Froakie already for the turn. So that's not going to be an option either. What are we looking at here? Buddy Poppin, we can get out of the hand. Wally's isn't going to be able to get out of the hand. Lily's Determination is just going to find us another full hand. Dawn, there's just too many supporters to be able to thin down this hand. The Ultra Ball can get rid of a few of them potentially. Just looking at the discard pile, shuffling up the deck, trying to figure out what resources may be available to be able to find an out of this difficult situation of not having an available attacker this turn. That is a tough break. So we are just going to see the Dragapult come into play here. It has 320 HP. It's a little bit more difficult to knock out, but do we have a way to get this Dragapult out of the active position? We're going to see some recon directives. Potentially there's an air balloon on the switch available. Some of those pivoting cards, we can potentially get this Dragapult out of the active. We do see the playing of a Night Stretcher coming into the discard pile and grabbing out either a Pokemon or an energy card, finding its way back into the hand. Looking at a second Froakie, finding its way onto the bench. Able to thin down that hand, open up that bench. Everything here that going into the deck earlier was going to be off that Buddy Poppin. It did make its way out of the hand. We do have the Ultra Ball to try to thin down. The Dead Candy, not going to be an available resource. If we wouldn't have evolved, if we promoted, if we wouldn't have had that additional Dracloak, maybe there would have been a way to do that. Because of those two, again, can't play the Lilies. We're going to end up putting cards in hand. Dawn just puts cards in hand. We could always fail it. We do see the boss's orders. We're going to try to trap that Litwick in the active position, potentially get a turn off, to be able to try to set something up to be able to do damage next turn with a Mega Greninja. If we can get the Rare Candy into play, being that there's already a Water Energy onto that benched Froakie. What else do we do here? We discard the Dawn and Lily's Determination to thin down the hand. I don't even think we grab a Pokemon here. Maybe the Mega Greninja for next turn, or the Terra Greninja, because it does attack for 1 energy and has that high HP. If we're able to keep that hand size low, potentially we can take a knockout on the Litwick on the following turn, keep the hand size low. So that Alluring Light on the Chandelure is going to try to put more cards in our hand, potentially make it so a resentful refrain would not do the necessary damage. A pass over to our player 1, we do see the playing of a third rare candy into a Chandelure, the attachment onto the Chandelure, which will be able to take a knockout with that Mind Ruler on the active position, taking that last prize card. Thank you so much for watching, trainers. We will catch you next time.